Today we're going to learn how to knit the purl stitch. This video is brought to you by KPC Yarns. I'm knitting with KPC Yarn Gossyp DK in color highlighter orange, and I'm using size 4.5mm needles. To purchase this yarn or knitting needles and others like it, visit the link in the description below. In order to knit the purl stitch, we need to have some stitches cast onto our needle. Once you have some stitches cast on, we can start purling. So when we do a purl stitch, we go into the needle from the top to the bottom. So I'm going to use my needle in my right hand and go from the top to the bottom of this stitch on my left needle. When you're knitting, normally you go in from the bottom to the top, like this. But when we purl, we do the opposite thing. We go from the top to the bottom. Now the other thing that you need to remember about the purl stitch is that your yarn needs to be up front. So you'll have your yarn up front like this and your needle going in from the top to the bottom. Then we're going to use our yarn and wrap it around our needle just like this, from the back to the front. Then we're going to pick out that loop that we just purled from our stitch on the left needle. Then we're going to drop it off the needle, just like that. So let's do that again. We'll use our needle, go into the stitch on our left needle from the top to the bottom, just like this, top to the bottom, and we have to make sure that our yarn is in front. Then we're going to go from the back to the front, and then we're going to pull that stitch through our needle, and then drop that stitch off our needle just like that. So let's do it again. We'll use our needle, go from the top to the bottom of the stitch on our left needle, and with our yarn up front, we'll go from the back to the front, and then we'll pick that loop through on the stitch on our left needle and drop it off. And we would continue doing this from the top to the bottom, our yarn up front, wrap it from the back to the front, and then we'll pick that loop that we made off of our stitch and drop that stitch off the needle. Once you become comfortable with this, you can go pretty quickly. The thing to remember is that you always want your needle going in from the top to the bottom like this, and your yarn always needs to be up front and wrapping from the back to the front and then pulling that stitch through and then off the needle. So let's try that. Once you get to the end of your row, you would switch hands and continue purling. So we're almost at the end of our row, and here's my last stitch. So one more time, we're going from the top to the bottom of the stitch with our yarn up front, wrapping from the back to the front, and then pulling the loop out of the stitch on our left needle and then right off. So now we're at the end of our row. We've knit one row of purl stitches, and we would just switch hands. I'll take my needle in my left hand and start all over again. So again, we'd be going in from the top to the bottom, like this, top to the bottom, and our yarn is going to be in front. You may need to just throw the yarn in front of your needle like this, and then you can start purling. And that is how you knit the purl stitch. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the KPC Yarns channel and like this video if you found it helpful. Check out more videos from KPC Yarns.